Hello and welcome to Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day. And an hour actually is quite a long time if you spend it productively. You'd be amazed how many people get a lot done, yet they're in meetings for half a day and then they're messing around looking at email and stuff like that. So actually an hour, productive hour, is likely to put you quite high up in your competition. It sounds really weird because you're thinking, well, most people 8-hour days and stuff like that, but in actual fact an hour is an awful long time to be productive. Of course it does mean you have to be productive, not just spending say 50 minutes checking emails and 10 minutes working, which is probably how most people do things, even if they don't like admitting it. So time management, that's an oxymoron anyway, but you need to be disciplined. The other thing that's almost certainly crossing your mind at the moment is you don't necessarily have a continuous hour available to you, and unless you're full-time employed or full-time self-employed, you probably don't. That's fine. Join the rest of the world as well. That's not unusual. And the good news is it doesn't matter. 2 30-minute slots, 4 15-minute ones will work fine, 3 20-minute ones. Whatever works with your schedule doesn't really matter as long as you do it. And again, the trick here is to actually make it a habit, because it takes us, opinions vary, but generally between 14 and 28 days to form a habit, which means that for the first probably month you're going to need to be very, very disciplined with yourself and think, set an alarm on your phone, set several alarms on your phone saying actually I've got to do it now. You can find the time almost certainly. If you've got a family, it might be before they get up or after they've gone to bed. If you're in the habit of watching the news for half an hour a day, use that time slot for some of your time, because watching the news is pretty much unproductive time. If it's a soap or a TV program you watch, that's fine, but use a hard drive recorder to record it. That way, with commercials, you'll cut an hour's program down to 40 minutes. That's just giving you 20 minutes. You'll be able to work out in your time, in your daily routine, where you've got the time. And if not, the easiest way to do it is an Excel spreadsheet. And here's what I've done for today. I hadn't normally done it because what I tend to do with this kind of thing is do it for a little while and then it keeps me on track for quite some time. It doesn't have to be an Excel spreadsheet, could be a sheet of paper, could be anything. You just keep to one side to do it, and then you've got the date. Split your day into half-hour chunks, that's fine, and what have you been doing for the majority of that time? Put in there. So I was checking emails because I tend to do that pretty much first thing. Bit of breakfast, I've been working on a database project, coffee break, a bit more of that, then needed to get a freelance project going, and then started recording this video. And what that'll do is it'll leap out at you what you're doing, when you're doing it, whether you're doing it right. Very, very fast, because if most of it is checking emails, looking at Facebook and so on, then you're probably not being very productive, and that's where you can find the 20 minutes 3 times a day or whatever it happens to be. So analyse your time if need be, and consider using the Pomodoro technique, if I've pronounced it right. I'll put a link below this video anyway, but it's a good way of messing around with your time anyway. So the Wikipedia page is what I'm doing, and essentially you split your day into 25-minute intervals and then you have a 5-minute short break after that, so it's effectively half-hour things, but you work solid on it for 25 minutes and a short 3 to 5 minute break, and then if you're doing it for most of the day, take a longer break every 4 of them, so every 2 hours you take a longer break. Works really well. It's very easy to do. Just set a timer. They've got a picture of a kitchen timer. This Pomodoro, because it's a tomato shape, because Pomodoro is tomato apparently. But doesn't have to be that. Just could be a timer on your phone. Absolutely anything. And what that'll do is it just keeps you on track on time management, because that is probably the biggest issue that most people face on internet marketing or pretty much anything else in their life. And if you start doing that spreadsheet and you find that most of your day is spent checking emails, checking Facebook, checking Twitter, checking who's viewed your LinkedIn profile, checking your stats again, and hoping you've made an affiliate sale even though you know you haven't, because you get an email from your affiliate program or whatever, it's the kind of time wasting that makes you think you're productive, but you're not. So you need to turn that round, and time management is probably the only way you can do it. It's something I'm not always fantastic at. No one I've ever met is. We all get distracted. You start off on something and think, well, what have I just done for the last 2 hours? That was a 5-minute job, but it wasn't, because it turned into more. One other trick on time management, which works a real thing, if you start with the big things first. It doesn't just apply to internet marketing, it applies to anything you're doing, and it will probably turn you around as well as these other techniques. What happens is, if you start with all the small things first, you've got 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, another 5 minutes here, and so on. Before you know it, half the day or the whole day is gone, and you haven't got time to even contemplate starting the bigger things. Whereas if you set an hour aside for the bigger thing, or whatever it happens to be, or 2 hours, the small stuff will actually fit in around it. It's kind of weird. The way I've heard it described, and it's quite good, is if I gave you a bunch of stones ranging from quite large down to sand size, and gave you a flask or something to fill them with, put as much in as you possibly could. If you started with the sand first, you wouldn't get very much in. If you start with the large stones and then the smaller ones, they'll fill in the gaps, and then the smaller ones will fill in the gaps again, and the sand will fill in the final bits. And that works with time. It's a really good analogy. And it means if you start doing that in your life, not just in the internet marketing, because if you're doing internet marketing for an hour a day, you've got 23 hours a day to other stuff, including sleeping, eating, and everything else you need to do during the day. And what you'll find is that you'll actually become more productive in everything, not just in the internet marketing, and you'll have the time to do it, and you might even find that you've got an hour and a half a day. Fantastic. Even better. So time management, if you're not good at it, you need to get better at it. It's really as simple as that. Any questions on that, shoot me an email, I'll do my best to help. But the important trick is start it. As I said, if you analysing your time is the other part of it, because if you do that, you'll find it leaps out at you where you're not spending your time productively, and then you can adjust accordingly. The next part of internet marketing in an hour a day is to do what's known as a SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. Generally speaking, we're actually going to just concentrate on the first two, strengths and weaknesses, because the rest can get a bit techy. I'll put you a link to the Wikipedia page which explains a bit more about it, when it goes into detail on projects and things like that, so characteristics and stuff like that. But that's probably more techy than we need to get. But it's definitely worth doing at least the strengths and weaknesses, and that's your strengths and weaknesses as much as anything else, because they'll determine. There's no point in deciding to do loads and loads of videos if you freak out or just run away at the thought of recording videos. And put me in front of a camera, not a fan of it. Put me behind a microphone, behind a screen, I'm fine. So I'm happy doing videos like this. I wouldn't be happy doing ones where I stand up, whether it's in front of a green screen, so I pretend to be somewhere else, or just in front of a white screen, or whatever else it happens to be. Not my idea of fun at all. Other people perfectly at home in it. So you need to work out where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And as a general rule, we're going to be talking about what you're actually going to do in internet marketing. So it could be that audio products are your forte, videos might be like this one, written if you just type away and are happy typing away, and that's probably one of the strengths I prefer doing. I tend to be audio a bit, video quite a bit for products, written if I'm doing stuff on the web. Programming, if you're an ace at that, that's good. Or something else entirely. It doesn't matter what the particular strengths and weaknesses are. It matters more that you've actually identified them, because they're going to play quite a large part in what you do. There's no point in, as I said, no point in doing something that goes against the grain, because you'll just procrastinate and you'll find excuses on why not to do it, how not to do it, everything else under the sun. Whereas if you actually enjoy doing something, which is your strengths, chances are you'll make the time, even if it's the busiest day in existence. Almost, you probably wouldn't want to do it on a wedding day, but near enough any other day you'd probably find the time. And actually, I've met someone who was doing arts and craft kind of stuff. He does it for a living, and yes, he was actually still doing it on his wedding day up to about half an hour before the wedding. But that's a bit over the top. But you see what I mean in terms of that. If you got strengths, you'll find the time to do them because you enjoy doing them and you'll play to them. So definitely worth doing, and as I said, for internet marketing, typically those. Video you'd then split down. Do you want to do videos like this one? Do you want to do like people like Mike from Maine and do interviews? Written, you could do the same. You know, do you do it as tutorials? Do you do it as stories almost? And again, you could decide that's what you want to do. You might decide that writing fiction is that. And again, you can split it up into bite-sized chunks. Again, depends how you want to do it. Some people will do half an hour a day first thing, or whatever it happens to be. Others will just set aside 1 day a week and just blitz it. So again, the hour a day doesn't have to be an hour every single day, but we'll come on to that in another section. So take a bit of time, just do a brain dump on this. Don't spend a lot of time analysing. And what a brain dump means in this context is literally just write or type away and put it in 2 columns, one for strengths, one for weaknesses, or just, if you're typing away, it's easiest if you just work on one or other for a little while and then switch, just set a timer. And don't analyse, don't edit, just write. Doesn't matter how crazy it is, just start typing or writing. We'll come back to it, because what you do with a brain dump is a bit like in cooking where they say set it to one side to let it rest. And that's exactly what you do. So you write it out or type it out, save it, leave it ideally overnight. That works really, really well. Come back to it tomorrow, and what you'll probably find is there'll be a certain number of themes that literally leap out at you, and so you're thinking, why didn't I think of that before? And those will be your strengths, all the stuff you absolutely hate, your weaknesses. If you're still struggling on that, start with your weaknesses, because most people know weaknesses or the stuff they hate a lot more than they know the stuff they like. So if you're struggling on the brain dump side, another option is write out your ideal day. And it's a bit overkill for this, but you might find you have to do it, and that's just another way of doing it. It doesn't matter which technique you use, and if you can't do your ideal day, do a nightmare day, your day from hell. Again, most people find that easier. And then once you've written it, don't stew on it, just turn it round, literally flip it on its head, turn it around to 180 degrees, and you'll pretty much have your ideal day. And again, you'll think, why didn't I think of that? So whichever technique you use, just work out your strengths, your weaknesses, and this could be the products you're looking at as well. It would work with those as well, very, very easily. And again, it means that, for instance, for me, it's internet marketing is one of them, but also self-help is not a market I like doing. But if you ask me to write about fitness or washing machines or a lot of other things, it just leaves me cold and I wouldn't do it. So topics as well as how they're produced. But that's something we'll cover in a later video anyway. So again, set aside the time to do it. It won't take you very long. The brain dump, maybe 20 minutes, something like that. And it counts towards your productive time, because the planning stage, it's the traditional carpenter thing, measure twice, cut once. It actually works really well and means that you're actually moving towards something rather than something vague. The more time you spend planning without doing analysis paralysis, but if you spend some time analysing what you're going to do, working out what you're going to do, it just pays off in the end. And actually pays off sooner rather than later in this kind of thing. So that's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one. Welcome to video 3 in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and this one's about being a control freak. And you'll notice that we haven't actually gone onto your site yet, and the reason for that is that you need to lay the foundations. And being a control freak doesn't mean every single detail, but it does mean the important ones, and the really important one is use your own site as much as possible. Don't rely on free sites. It's very, very tempting to build up a YouTube channel or a bunch of Squidoo pages or anything else like that, but if you're doing that, you're actually laying on foundations of sand, or probably even quicksand nowadays. Facebook is all the rage. That's fine. Any of those are fine until the terms and conditions change. Squidoo seem to do it quite regularly. Google with YouTube or any other Google thing, do it very regularly. And it's almost a constant that the terms and conditions of free sites will change. Partly because they have to adapt. But what it means is that something that was allowable last week, last year, whatever it happens to be, and is suddenly no longer allowable, causes you problems. Interestingly, using articles, we're digressing slightly, but not totally. Years ago, you used to allow a minimum 250 words, and came back to edit one the other day that was quite a low word count on one of my pen names, because the resource box URL had changed, and the article got rejected by the automatic system because the keyword density was too high. Had 6% keyword density. That was fine when I wrote it. Is no longer, so it failed that check, and I didn't get as far as it failing the word check, but it probably would have failed the word count as well. So I've got an article there that's grandfathered in, because to their credit, Easy Articles don't remove that. Squidoo will. They've locked lenses quite happily. Google have got rid of AdWords, AdSense accounts, both of those, and also YouTube accounts. There's sob stories about any of those. And because you're use any of those, it's bad. I'll come back onto that in a minute. But paid for services are a good second best. So in other words, if you Weebly, for instance, will allow you to pay for an upgraded thing. Vimeo will do the same for videos, so you buy an account. What you're doing with those is essentially buying the right to at least have someone to talk to. They might still have terms and policy changes, but if you're paying for a service, they've got every incentive to actually keep you paying for it rather than just cut you off. But initially, your own site on a domain name's roughly $10. Hosting, depending on who you use, between $5 and $10 a month, something in that region. It's a standard expense, pretty much as you'd rent a phone line, or put fuel in your car, or turn the lights on, or pay for your internet connection. It's just another expense of doing business. So don't try and cheapskate on that side of things. So free sites, and that could be YouTube, Easy Articles, Squidoo, Facebook, pretty much any of the other ones, Blogger. Use them only for support. Don't use them as your main business. Don't go pointing stuff at them. Use them to point back to your main site. So you'd put YouTube videos up, but you'd probably also put them somewhere else and host them on your own site, so that if YouTube ever decided to change their policies or do anything else, you'd still have the videos, whereas you'd have to be delving around your hard drive and thinking, where was that? Did I upgrade the computer in the meantime? Was it on the other machine because I've got a laptop as well as a desktop, etc.? Or was it a video that you uploaded from your phone and therefore has just been deleted because you ran out of space on your phone? So anything like that, Easy Articles use that support. Squidoo lenses, if you can get past their current quality control and produce one that will work, that's fine. And the other thing to do with free sites is use more than one for support. A bit like trying to ride a unicycle otherwise, and if for whatever reason the one site you're relying on disappears, that's been heard of, or changes terms and conditions, or goes whatever, and companies do disappear. If you think about computer terms, there's a lot that have come and gone. On the web years ago, Yahoo directory used to send traffic. Nowadays it doesn't. Open Directory still seems a bit old, but it doesn't really send anything. Doesn't even get indexed very often nowadays, certainly on the deeper pages. So even if whatever you're using is working at the moment, if it's one or even two, you need to spread out a little bit. The ideal, at least 3, because a tripod's good. 4 or 5 better. And you might have different emphasis on different ones, that's fine. And personally I tend to use Easy Articles more than most for my support, but I'll put articles elsewhere, and the plus with Easy Articles is that they get used elsewhere anyway. That's YouTube. It's fine so long as I stay within Google's terms and conditions, which I do my best to do, but again, that's definitely quicksand. So whatever works now may be different in a month or two's time, or a year or two's time. So you need to use more than one. And think about it. If you're using MySpace a few years ago for traffic, it almost doesn't exist. It's trying to reinvent itself, but it's been eclipsed by Facebook. But who's to say that in 5 or 10 years' time Facebook will still be around or will still be good? We don't know. We don't even know that Google will be. I mean, you might do all your searching from a mobile phone, and therefore you wouldn't be using Google. So you need to have more than one string to your bow. And your main site you need to control. You need to control the domain name, and you're pretty much safe with most of the major domain name companies. The one I suggest is Namecheap. You'd be safe enough with GoDaddy, but they tend to freak a little bit if you get email spam complaints and things, and that's outside your control. But they'll treat it as though it's inside. So be careful on that one. But Namecheap seems to be pretty good. HostGator was the one that's recommended. They've just been bought out and service has gone downhill, so I wouldn't recommend those nowadays, but there are other ones that you can use. If you're still on HostGator, that's fine. Just be careful, be aware that you might need to change sooner rather than later. But be a control freak. Make sure that as much as possible is in your control, and then everything else is backup, and that you're not relying on those backups, so that should any of them disappear or reduce in importance or decide they don't like your face or your way you type or whatever else, you're not snookered. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the 4th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and this one we're going to talk about how many days in the week. Now, the initial answer to that obviously is 7, but that doesn't mean that you have to do your internet marketing 7 days a week. You might decide you're going to do daily. I don't really know, being self-employed for way too long, and I tend to treat every day as vaguely similar, not every day special or anything like that. So if I work on a Saturday or a Sunday, I do so, and if I don't, I don't. It's one of those things, and same goes for weekdays actually. But you might decide that you want to work 7 days a week, and if you can fit that in your routine, absolutely fine. Or you might decide that it's more like a traditional job, in which case you might do weekdays, so Monday through Friday. Or it could be that your schedule at the moment is just way too busy and you actually can't do even 5 days a week, but 1 or 2 days. And that could be more hours in those 1 or 2 days. If you work shifts, that could work quite nicely. If you're on sort of 4 days and then off for 3, or whatever the shift pattern happens to be, then it could be that those 2 or 3 days off you work more hours, and that works fine. Or it could be that you only make 1 or 2 days a week and only 1 hour a day. The actual specifics don't matter as much as doing it regularly, and that actually is the trick. The consistency, the doing it regularly, the doing it let's say that you only had an hour a week, and that's on the low side, and I think anyone can near enough manage that. And let's say you had a couple of weeks off for good behaviour. That means you've got 50 hours you can spend in the next year to work on your internet marketing. And if you actually did that 50 proper hours, not 50 hours checking Facebook, checking Twitter, checking emails, watching videos, but if you actually did it creating content for your own site first and then to promote your site afterwards, let's say that a video like this, and this will last about 3, 4, 5 minutes, so it'll take about 3, 4, 5 minutes to record. Typically what I'll do is mark out the headline and the bullet points beforehand, so maybe there's another 2 minutes on there and a bit of rendering and uploading. So if you did a video like this, let's say that all in it takes 15 minutes, so an hour a day, you could create 4 of those. I'm not suggesting that you just rely on YouTube, but if you did it that way, you could have 4 videos up there. If you did an article, 500-600 word article probably takes, once you get in practice, half an hour, so 2 of those a day. So you did that, you'd have 100 over the next year, and that actually would put you so far ahead of most of your competition, even just in 1 hour a day, 1 day a week. So think what you could do on more than that, but if you start that, you'll start to get results. Maybe not immediately, well, almost certainly not immediately, but you will get results, and once you start getting results, you kind of get hooked. So even if you can't spare an hour a day every single day of the week, aim for weekdays. If you can't do every single weekday, every other weekday at work, so that's 3 days a week, that's fantastic, 3 hours. That's triple what I've just said, that's 150 hours of work. 300 pages of content or maybe 600 videos. That's a phenomenal amount. And you could easily do that in 1 hour a day, 3 days a week. You think you'd get results from that? I think you probably would. And that's what you're doing here. It really is as simple as that. So commit to that. And if you can't do a solid hour, we'll come on to that. But ideally, commit to a certain number of days a week and stick to it as though it's an appointment you're paying for. Because you actually are. You're paying for it in future profit. So treat it as a paid appointment and stick to it. And you'll be absolutely amazed how much you start to do and how your internet marketing starts to move from being a hobby or a sideline into something that actually replaces your full-time job. So go for it. Commit to yourself and to anyone else who will listen to you to do your hour a day, daily, weekdays, 1 or 2 days a week, whatever fits your schedule at the moment, but monitor it and increase as necessary. But for a start, work out something you know you can actually do rather than something you'd like to do in your dreams. Something you know you can do, commit to that and start doing it. That's the really important part. We'll cover that in another video anyway. Welcome to the 5th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day. And this one we're going to talk about picking a subject. And this tends to be a stumbling block for an awful lot of people I meet. Don't know why a friend of mine spends hours and hours, like 2 days, researching keywords, and then it's almost information overload and he actually never gets around to doing anything with them. And then a week later he'll get the bug again and research another batch. And he's just got spreadsheets and all sorts of other things with thousands upon thousands upon thousands of keywords that in reality he's not going to do anything with. They're just gathering dust. So you don't want to get into that kind of situation. You want to actually pick a subject, and it can be a broad subject. It could be something like weight loss, or it could be narrow. It could be with weight loss, if we stick with that one, it could be people that live in a certain state, say I don't know, Arizona, and want to try the Atkins diet or a low carb diet, and you specify that one, or even just a subset of that. So you could do women within a certain age range, or men within a certain age range, or teenagers, whatever it happens to be, and that's a narrow one. Now, pluses and minuses on both of those. What I'd suggest is that you pick a domain name that's actually relatively broad, and then narrow down in your pages. That gives you scope for later and doesn't box you in as much. That's personal preference, but again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Google blow hot and cold in terms of how they treat domain names. They have got really keen on exact match domain names, then they get less keen about it when all the spammers catch up with it, and then they get more keen once the spammers get trapped. So that varies over time. And yes, there have been studies done, but again, they vary over time. The next bit is critical. Make sure that you're actually interested in the subject. If weight loss, for whatever it happens to be, or whatever the other topic is, watching clouds, cloud bursting even, it's a weird one, and there will be people that search for that. But make sure that you're actually interested in the subject, because you're going to be committed to it. It's not hit and run. You're not creating a site in a week, or a day, or even the hour, whatever it happens to be, and then just running away from it. You're going to be committing to this for at least the short to medium term, and ideally the long term, as long as it takes off, but definitely the short to medium term. So more than just I've bought the domain now, I've put WordPress on it, it says hello world, next. That would be pointless doing that. So you need to pick a subject you're interested in, otherwise you're actually not going to create content on it, and that will, or if you do create content, that will come through in the content. It's kind of weird. You don't necessarily think in the written word that your voice comes through, but it does. Read it out loud. You'll spot, I can certainly spot the articles I've written versus the ones I've had ghost written. I can even, to a fair extent, tell what mood I was in at the time when I was writing it. So it'll come through. If you're enthusiastic, that will come through. People will be more inclined to follow you, more inclined to tweet about you, like you on Facebook, and to actually buy from you. Pick a subject people are actually searching for. That's almost any subject nowadays. There's almost nothing that isn't searched for. The quick and easy way of doing that is go to Amazon. If there's more than a handful of products on that particular subject, people are searching for it, people are buying it, because people have created a product on Amazon, which will probably be a book or download a video, MP3, whatever it happens to be. Just be certain that you just haven't picked a song title by mistake. That can skew the results, but you can just search through, and again Amazon will show you what results there are in which sections. And check they're not just searching for freebies. Recipes got suggested a while ago. I've tried a few recipe books myself. The problem with recipes is they're free everywhere. Unless you're a celebrity chef, or unless you've gone really niche, which you can do. So if you're in a particular region and they've got a regional speciality, that would probably work as a recipe book, but generally speaking most people can get all the recipes they need and more for free on the web. So be careful with ones where they're searching for freebies. The obvious other ones are pirated films and things which you wouldn't want to touch anyway, because you're much more obvious than the person finding your site, and therefore the big guns will come for you. So just be a little bit careful, but a very quick check. Quick check on Google. If there's more than 3 or 4 adverts, there's people paying for adverts, that's a good sign. Quick check on Amazon. If there's more than a page or so of printed books, I would suggest, or Kindle books, but preferably printed. They're more difficult to produce. Slightly, not very much actually. It's another topic. And that actually leads on to the last point, which is a subject you can actually monetize, because if people are putting up adverts, then they're monetizing it. If there are products on Amazon, you can easily monetize that way. Search on places like ClickBank, Commission Junction, wherever else as well, and you'll soon be able to get the handle on whether or not you can monetize the subject. But chances are, if it's something you're interested in, something people are buying stuff about, then you'll be able to monetize somehow. Come on to that in another video. But pick a subject, don't spend hours and hours and hours on it. At most, spend today's hour on it, and stick with it, rather than just scatterbrain and do the next one next week. Okay, see you in the next video. Welcome to the 6th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and this is about making an outline for what you're going to do. And outlines are important. They give you basically the roadmap in exactly the same way as if you went on a long road journey. You wouldn't plan every single second of the way, but you'd look for the major junctions. You'd know where you're going to turn, what you're going to do, maybe even when you're going to stop for a break. And that's what an outline does in internet marketing. So you need one. It doesn't have to be particularly complicated. And the one for this video is 12 lines, or not this product, sorry, is 12 lines. Let me just show you. Okay, and that's literally all it is. Each one, that's what each of the videos is going to be on. That's where I've got to on the 6th video, so obviously I'm on that one. That's the timings in minutes and seconds, just so I keep an idea of it. And that's the things that will be covered within that video. That's all it needs to be. It doesn't have to be anything complicated. I use Excel, and the reason for using Excel is I can move lines around. So if I wanted to move that from there to there, that's all it takes. That was copied. But it works that way very, very easily. Other people use Word. I just find it messier actually to use Word for this kind of thing. I'll do it for the PowerPoint, poor person's PowerPoint that I use, because you can see from that's just a Word document. Put the headline up there. It saves me doing a PowerPoint. I've never learned PowerPoint, can't be bothered. This works okay. So horses for courses, but if you're happy using Word, you can do that. It's just, as I said, I find moving points around, and what I've done there, you can see I've got notes. That's going to be roughly what I'm going to cover. You may not be precisely, it's certainly not all the bullet points by any means, but again, that doesn't matter. It gives me something to go on. And if you do that as an outline, then you can mark out what you've done. The most important thing is to actually do the outline. They can change, that's fine, that happens. It happens like everything in life. You think, I've missed that, or that could better be there, or whatever else it happens to be. Doesn't matter, but you can mark things off as they go along. That's the other important thing. As you notice with the with that, I've marked off the timings. That's my way. I'll quite often colour them in yellow just to show that I've done them. Either of those work for me. Again, just work out a system just so you know you've got to, because especially if you're only doing an hour or so a day, it's easy to lose track. And if you're not doing daily, if you're doing once a week or once or twice a week, it's really easy to lose track. So just a simple outline, very, very simple. If a piece of paper works for you, that's fine, pin it up on your wall, whatever else, refer to it often, at least before each day's hour. Because again, that's the whole idea of doing it. You need to refer to it, because otherwise your memory fails. It just happens. It's not just age. I deal with scouts, and they're sort of young teenagers usually, and their memory's just as bad. They think they know everything. They think they remember everything. We think we do the same. We don't. And if you don't refer to your outline, you find you miss stuff, and then you get emails saying you've missed that, or we look back at it and think, why did I do that? So refer to it often, and then mark things off as they get done, because again, that saves you repeating what you've done. So it means that you can actually do things. Very, very simple. Don't spend hours and hours on an outline. At most the hour for today, and probably less. You can always add to it. The important thing with all this is to actually get started. That's the really important part of it. So go for it. Just make a really quick sketch outline, something like that. Whatever works for you. Okay, see you in the next video. Welcome to the 7th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and this one is telling you to start. And that sounds really simple, but you'd be amazed how many people get as far as the drawing board, they've done their outline, but they don't actually start it. And if you start it, it's just a dream. If you don't start it, it's just a dream. So you need to start. Otherwise, it just stays there in your head, in your mind, mulling around, niggles your mind, but obviously not enough to actually get it done. And the funny thing about starting, it's something, a secret that people like Franklin Mint have known for years, is that once you start, you set a different trigger in your mind, and that actually keeps you going, because your mind, we tend to like things complete. As I said, that's why Franklin Mint do sets of things, because they know that once you bought the first one or two, and especially if it's the display cabinet with all the gaps for the future ones, then you'll continue using it and filling it. And the same works with your project. So that goes back to the outline that we showed you in the previous video. Because you're ticking things off, because you're marking things off, you've started, your mind niggles at you. You actually do find that you're actually making the time, you're making the hour a day if need be, to do it. But that only happens once you start. If you don't start, it's just another of those projects that you thought about, seemed a good idea at the time, maybe you bought the sales pitch, and you're going to look at it later, and later just never happens because other things get in the way. So make sure, really, really determine, that's why this video is really short, because you actually need to start. So if you haven't started yet, do it. Just do something. You've done your outline, that's part of the start. Maybe you need to buy a domain name, whatever it happens to be. Maybe you just need to write some content or record a video like this one. But actually start it. You'll feel so much better. It's absolutely incredible. Try it. And see you in the next video. Welcome to the 8th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day. And this video is about monetizing your site from day one. You may have heard other people say, don't do that, wait for it to get indexed, blah, whatever excuse they use. And depending on what you want to do, yeah, maybe. But what I've found is that, generally speaking, if you wait, that means it's left until tomorrow, and it's always tomorrow. Far better in my mind to add in a few affiliate links and just do that. Very, very simple. And I tend to prefer text links. They're the ones you see in places like Wikipedia, well, anything you click in Google pretty much. They're just what people are used to clicking, and they don't scream out advert, and in that respect they're a lot better than stuff that's just an advertising banner. Again, that's my personal viewpoint. You need to test it and work out what you feel comfortable with. But if you know if you go to a website and there's banners flashing everywhere, you tend to think, not so sure. But if it's a little bit muted, Wikipedia's probably a little bit too muted, but it's still there, it's got pictures, it works. And just mix in a few affiliate links. Now, the other thing with affiliate links is they do what's known as rot over time. What that means is that the product might cease to exist, or it might change, or whatever. And again, personally, I don't like going in and changing every single post. So what I do is install a WordPress plugin. The one I use is WP Shorties. I'll include a link to that below this video, or below the main page. There's plenty of them around. That's just the one I use. I use it for a couple of reasons. One is that it works, which is always a good one. Second, it disguises the link. Typically it's your domain /go/ whatever shortcode you put in. It will give you a bit.ly or a Twitter style yucky thing that's just a mixture of characters and letters and numbers and things like that, and I tend to overwrite that and you put something meaningful. But it has the advantage, it has a couple of advantages. One is that you can actually use it to test once you get traffic, because you can send it on a randomized basis to different places. I tend to use 2 URLs, and I'll literally set it to go 50-50 chance, toss a coin which one it goes to. It'll handle all that a dream. It just works. But it has a couple of advantages. One is that you just put in a normal looking link, always useful, and so people aren't confused. They're not thinking, where's that going? It's just somewhere else on your site, as far as they know if they hover over it and look. Some techies do that. The other thing is, if for whatever reason, if say you're promoting a ClickBank product and that disappears, or you're promoting an Amazon product and it goes out of date, instead of going through and working out where you've got it linked from all over your blog, it's just one place to change. So again, that's just easier. You're monetizing from day one. Don't expect clicks from day one. You might get them, you might be lucky. You don't know. It could be the first visitor you get from anywhere decides they're going to buy. Which of course be the other plus point with monetizing your site from day one, because if they came to your site and couldn't buy anything, well, they'll buy from someone else if they're in the mood. The other plus point with monetizing your site from day one is if you do get distracted in any way, shape or form, and that does happens to all of us, and if you end up neglecting the site, suddenly you'll get a sale and you'll think, where did that come from? Oh yeah, that relates to that product. Must be that site. You go back, look at the stats and think, actually it's starting to get traffic. Because it can take a demoralizing amount of time for traffic to arrive from places like Google. It seems to take forever nowadays. It's just the sheer volume of stuff they've got to index. So it means you get a nudge, because you'll be monitoring your sales stats, because everyone does. And you'll look at your ClickBank stats or your Amazon stats and think, oh, okay, that's that kind of product. If it's ClickBank, you may have to do a bit more delving, because a lot of their links aren't very explanatory. Got one that's called Halcyon, I think it is, that I always have to look up because I never remember what it is. It's got that and a number on it, and it just doesn't relate to anything. I remember something, but it seems to get sales occasionally. And there's different ways of looking that up. So you can do that, and then you think, okay, that was that type of product, that must be from that blog, or that blog, and you'll work it out from those. And if you manage to put a tracking link in, which you can with things like ClickBank and you can with Amazon, then you'll know exactly which site got the sale, and then you know which one to concentrate on. And usually what that means, at that stage you're getting a bit of traffic, and it doesn't take very much more to get more traffic to it, and you've got the incentive because you've made money. Whereas if you didn't monetize from day one, chances are the next time you think about the site is when it comes up for renewal in a year's time or whatever. And in that stage you've lost 1 or 2 sales, which would have paid for the domain and the hosting, and you've lost enthusiasm. So monetize from day one. Doesn't take much doing. As I said, use a plugin like WP Shorties or any of the ones that do shortened links, or just put a regular link in, your choice, and go for it. But do it, because you'll remember at that stage, and it'll be a lot more relevant than going back and having to reread 10 or 20 or 30 posts and thinking, now what could I do there, and then remembering which one to do. It's just easier to do at the time. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Welcome to video 9 of Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and this one is about a philosophy that I've used for a long time called Ready, Fire, Aim. It's a good book. Michael Masterson there. So it's got 91 reviews on Amazon, 4.5 stars, 4.4, whatever it is. It's written in 2008, but the phrase has been bandied around since at least 2006, probably a lot longer. You don't need to buy the book. What you do need to do is know how to use it, and it works on so many levels, it's just crazy. But the main reason is that before you actually put something up, you can do all the research you want, but you actually don't know until you've created your site or whatever, your product or whatever, whether or not it's going to sell. You really don't. Market research at any level doesn't always tell the truth. Ask any market researcher, they have to adjust for that. And if you're market researching and you're probably on the internet, you're probably not even asking people face to face, you're asking them possibly by email more likely you're just reading on a forum, and that in no way reflects how people buy. People say they don't like one-time offers, but they buy them. People don't like blatant advertising and marketing to them, but they buy on the basis of it. So until you actually create your site, you really don't know. Everything else is just research. So you need to get ready first, get a domain, get hosting, and definitely put it on your own domain, put it on your own hosting. Don't cheapskate on this. It's not worth the few cents you're going to save. Once you've got the domain and hosting, it'll take anything from a few seconds to a day to get everything linked in. Start putting some content up. Don't let it rest for a week or a month, because chances are, if you're like almost everyone else I know in internet marketing and virtually everything else, you'll buy the domain, and if you don't put the content up immediately, it'll never happen. So make sure that you put some content up on the domain in a day or two, certainly no more than a week. And you're working on this an hour a day, you've got plenty of time to do that. You can put a couple of pages up today, a couple of pages up tomorrow, do that for the next 5, 6, 7 days, you've got a 14-page site. Better than a 0-page site that just says hello world. And some of those content on your site and also content elsewhere to start the search engines realizing that you're around. They'll know anyway. Google will crawl around almost immediately. It does that, but it will take note of whether or not you've changed from the default WordPress or whatever else you'd install. And I would strongly suggest WordPress. If you don't know what you're doing on WordPress, there'll be a link below this to my WordPress tutorial. It's cheap, and if you don't know what you're doing, it'll get you up to speed very, very fast. But WordPress is quite easy to do anyway. Most people find it. Or you can go on Fiverr, someone will press install on that for $5 for you. Either way, put some content up, get some links, maybe a YouTube video or two, maybe an article on Easy Articles or two, something like that. And that's the fire side of things. That's, you're firing a shot into the internet. And then the aim part is, once you start getting results, you fine-tune what happens, and you'll almost certainly never know. I've seen headline tests before where they'll put 2 headlines up on a screen and almost no one in the audience gets the right answer versus the testing of which one sold more in real life. And you'll be exactly the same. You can't tell me different. Even the top copywriter in the world, Ted Nicholas, reckons that he only gets 4 out of 10 campaigns right, and he's world class. He's paid an absolute fortune for sales letters, and less than half the time he gets it right. And we're not in that league, so we'll probably get it right even less than that. Doesn't matter, because we're not paying his sort of very silly fees. Well, not silly, but very expensive fees, and we're not doing that. So even if you get this wrong, you'll probably get some sales, because if you monetized it from the previous video. And then once you start to get sales and once you start to get visits, you'll notice a pattern evolving. And again, you almost certainly can't predict beforehand which page is going to be most popular on your site. You really don't know that. But once you've got a bit of stats involved, and you can look at your stats at this stage, once you've got a few stats, then you can start to think, well, actually people are looking at that page more than that page is at the title. You can start doing a little bit of psychology effectively on people, work out why they're doing it. Sometimes it can just be a fluke. It just could be something that piques people's interest and they click on it. But you can use all that, and you start promoting the pages that got more, you start writing more content about the pages that are getting more views, and it goes in a virtuous circle. But until you've got the site ready and put some content up there, then you can't fine-tune it. So that's why it's ready, fire, aim. Okay, we'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the 10th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day. And this one we're going to talk about promoting yourself, and that doesn't mean giving yourself a rise or anything like that. It means actually going out there, and your top priority is obviously getting content on your own site, but the very next highest is getting content elsewhere, because that's what gives Google the links, and that's what helps promote your site. So for this part of the exercise, for the promotion part, you're going to need to use what I loosely term support sites, and could be videos on YouTube, could be articles on Easy Articles, not put it on the list, could be the document sharing sites like DocShare and so on. Could be a Facebook page or just Facebook posts, Twitter posts, forum posting, guest posting, anything and everything that gets links back to your site. And you'll need to do some kind of content for this or pay someone to do it. But you need to do it because Google finds this out and it works out how well or not you're doing. And it takes a look at those different things. Let me just show you something on one of my sites. And because Google doesn't show you what they've indexed, you use a couple of separate indexing sites. One I've used is Ahrefs, ahrefs.com. I put in Instant Law of Attraction Success, which is my Law of Attraction product. 86 pages crawling, pointing to it, 88 backlinks, spread over 21 IP addresses, 28 different domains. And because I've done some more promotion on it recently, that's just shot up there, as you can see, from around about 20 odd backlinks to rather more. It's found various things. And Google will find those over time as well. Majestic SEO is the other one, Majestic Site Explorer is the other one, and again they've found a different number of domains. They found 18 referring domains rather than 28. 14 IPs rather than 21, and so on. But they'll give an importance. That's just a weird error they've come up with. Don't worry about that one, because it did crawl it. And you can use those. Don't spend lots and lots of time on it. But what that means is that they get importance, and what these services try and do as well is work out a sort of equivalent to Google PageRank. You can see here on Majestic we got a citation flow and a trust flow, and weighted by the number of blah blah blah. But basically, the higher the number, the better. Ahrefs does a similar one. It gives their domain rank. It's given me that's a score of 30 out of 100. Quite good for quite a new domain. So you can get an idea. Again, don't sweat about these. It's just, what it means is that the more you do on places like YouTube, Easy Articles and so on, the higher generally of trust you'll get and the higher your rank will come up gradually. It takes time for Google to crawl all those. You saw the difference between Majestic and Ahrefs, where you got 28 domains and 18 domains. That's just the difference in crawling times. Google's figure will be different again, and if I checked it again tomorrow, it'll be different again. So don't panic about that. What you do need to do, though, is over time keep track of what works and also what you enjoy doing. I mean, if something doesn't work fantastically, but does work, but you enjoy doing it, you're more likely to continue doing it. So it's better to do that than do something that works slightly better, but you find a pain in the neck to do. So do more of the things that work, but if it's a fine line between one that works quite well and another one that works quite well, but you enjoy doing one but not the other, do more of the ones you enjoy, because you'll do more and you'll have the enthusiasm to do it, and it will come through in what you do, and that will actually get you more traffic, more people buying and so on anyway. So don't be afraid to promote yourself. No one else is going to promote you. You'd love them to, but they probably won't. Shame, but it just doesn't happen that way anymore. It might have happened really early on in the web because there were so few sites, but there's millions upon millions now, and you're just, sorry to tell you this, you're just one in a crowd. So you need to promote yourself to step above the crowd, and you don't have to do much. So go for it. Put some promotion on your list once you've got content on your site first. Welcome to the 11th video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and the subject of this one is monitoring occasionally, and I do mean occasionally. I don't mean going in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, pressing refresh, seeing that you've had one more visitor or one more click through to a page but no sale, or whatever it happens to be. And the urge is, especially when it's new, to constantly check stats. We all do it from time to time, but it's not a good use of your time. It really isn't. So the time that you spend, it's a bit like checking friends on Facebook and all the other things. It's an excuse to pretend you're working that you're not. One of the services I use actually is a free service called StatCounter, and they'll actually email you the stats weekly free of charge. They also do some quite neat things. This is again the Instant Law of Attraction site, not getting huge amounts of visitors as you can see. This is just the stats for the main page, and they'll give you various bits of stats, popular pages. I've only monitoring one, so there'll only be one. Daily views, if you don't pay them, they'll only keep a certain amount of logs. Recent came froms and a few other things. So you can do that, and they'll email you a sort of a selection of those once a week, and that's good enough to do. All part of the service, all free and very unobtrusive. You wouldn't know that they're tracking, and they're not publicly available stats unless you just decide to make them. So quite useful, and I'm sure you can integrate it into WordPress blog and stuff like that if you want to, or WordPress, just use a stats plugin. So either of those will work. The beauty of the email side is obviously that you're not having to log in constantly to check it. You just get the email and think, okay. What you actually find when you do that is you tend to ignore it. I get a few email stats things, and I look at them once in a while, but not very often, and it works fine. You can also check your affiliate stats. You go into ClickBank, you get the reporting side of things. Amazon will do the same. They'll tell you what's selling, what you're getting clicks on. But don't get obsessive about this. It's not worth it. That's why I say monitor occasionally. Once a week's fine. Once a day if you really have to. But if you do that, set yourself a time limit. Say, right, it's going to be the last 2 minutes once I've done everything else I need to do, rather than the first 2, because that'll turn into 10. And you know that's true, because again, we all do it. And it's just, the thing with checking stats is it's historic data. It's time that could be much, much better spent creating more content for your site, and if you create more content, you'll get more sales. And then the money's coming in, and you actually don't check your stats as often once the money comes in, because you're thinking, okay, that's nice. You'll check the dollar amount instead, and okay, you just got that through into your bank account or your PayPal account or whatever, and that's a nice feeling. A lot nicer than just looking at raw figures saying, well, whatever it was on there, 20 people coming in on that day, 24 there, whatever. Just a lot easier. So don't obsess about stats, just monitor every now and then just to check everything's working as much as anything else, and do go into your site occasionally and do it from a separate browser, not one you normally use. One that you clear the cookies on every single time, so you're not looking at an old page. And just check your site's still there and working as well. That's the other thing on the monitoring side, because things break on the internet and you don't get told. There are monitoring services out there. Most of them work reasonably well, but the easiest way I find is just go in. It works. You don't have to do it very often. It's just there. Monitor that the site's there. Click a few links. Just check they're still working. Just check nothing's broken, because what happens with the internet is like Windows upgrades all your programs regularly, so do Apples and Androids and iPhones and all sorts of things, and sometimes bugs creep in, and if you don't check, you don't know, and if you don't know, then you're losing sales. So check occasionally, but again, don't obsess about it. Much better things to do with your time than monitoring all the time. And when you get to that stage, set a few things in motion, you can get programs that do a lot of the checking for you, and that'll work as well. So we'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the 12th and final video in Internet Marketing in an Hour a Day, and the subject of this one is being patient. Possibly the most difficult thing to do, because obviously on a new project you're champing at the bit, you're keen and eager on it, and it seems as though almost everything is conspiring to slow you down, and to a fair extent it is. And there's reasons for that. One is that the internet is just humongously large, and the other is that there are more and more checks in place that are designed to keep spammers essentially out of the search results. The thing is that those things also affect us as well. What I've found generally is that because you can register a domain for a year, it tends to take at least that year for a domain to get recognised by Google, and I'm sure that's part of their algorithm saying, well, has it been renewed yet? I know there are people that sort of say if domains are registered for longer, I know they've got capability of checking that, but the easiest one to check is probably when was it originally registered, has it been in the same hands since, is it over a year? What used to happen was that .info domains, which is why they got a bad rap, they were cheap for the first year as well, so they were used by spammers because buy a 99-cent domain or $2.99 or whatever it was, and get your money back from it easily over the first year. And that's happening less and less and less. So being patient is a bit like the tortoise and the hare, where the tortoise won the race because the hare got cocky. It raced ahead and then that was it. We all know the storyteller, the parable. And if you're the tortoise and just keep plodding away, being patient, spending your hour a day, that's fine, because you can do that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And it becomes a habit. Do anything for, it's reckoned, between 14 and 28 days, and it turns into a habit. So it's really, really critical for the first month especially to do that. Keep at it. Really keep at it. Make sure, schedule it, put a note in your mobile phone, stick it on your desktop, anything else it happens to be, anything to remind you to actually do it each and every day. Because what you'll find is that doing that an hour a day or whatever just works. And the consistency works. That's the trick of this. The hour a day consistently means that you'll get in the habit of doing it, and that you'll actually, before you know it, you'll have an authority site that's got 50, 100, 200 pages, lots and lots of links, and is getting traffic and is getting sales. And that's what you want to do. So good luck in your internet marketing. Keep me posted, drop me an email, whatever, and most of all, make sure you do this. It's all very well and good watching these videos, but you actually need to put them into practice and do it on a regular basis. And that's the main difference between dreaming about doing internet marketing and actually doing it. So, wish you all the very best of luck. Thanks for watching all these videos. Thank you.